Hello buddy and welcome to FreakinFX, where I'm going to show you today how to create this Spider-Man logo from the latest Spider-Man movie. And we're going to be using Adobe Photoshop for creating this dots texture with this blue gradient. And also we're going to use Blender 3D, which is an open source 3D free software for creating these 3D letters. So we're going to start by creating this texture inside, which is blue. For that we're going to be using Photoshop, and you will be needing a texture that has this kind of dots pattern. So you can go into Google Images and just look for comic dots texture, something like that, and you will see that there are a lot of textures that you can use. So you can choose some. I personally recommend someone like this, which has an uniform pattern. We're gonna head into Photoshop, so we're gonna double click on the layer so that we can move it around and do whatever we want. I'm gonna create a new layer, which is gonna be the gradient, and we want to turn off the dots. I'm gonna change its name by now. I'm gonna turn it off, and we want to use the bucket tool to fill the whole thing. And then we want to double click on the gradient and look for a gradient overlay. And we're gonna be using some blue tones, so something like this, probably more bluish, maybe darker. And we hit OK, and we want to have a linear style, and I'm not going to reverse it. Make sure that the brightest part is up and the darkest is down. So we hit OK, and then we want to turn on the dots texture, and we want to set it to multiply, but turning the opacity just a little bit down. So something like that more or less could be working. Once we have it ready, you can save the file, and we can head into Blender. And here we're going to start by deleting everything. So we're going to double tap A, the A key, and then press X, and we click and delete. And for navigating through Blender, you have to use the middle wheel, the mouse wheel. And that's how you navigate. And also if you hold shift, if you hold shift while pressing the wheel, you can move around as well. So we're gonna hit space, and we're going to type add text. So we have our text right over here. I'm going to make this window bigger. We wanna go here to the font tab, and we're gonna start by centering it. So we're gonna click here in center paragraph, and you want to change your text by hitting the tab key, and that's how you can change it. So I'm just going to write my name, and I'm gonna be putting the description below the fonts that we're gonna be using for this project. So once you have downloaded the fonts, you have to come right over here and click in this first bottom. So we hit there, and then we have to look for our fonts. These are the two fonts that I'm gonna be putting in the description. So first of all, we're gonna use the Good Times. So we click on Open Font, and we can see that this is starting to look a little bit closer to the logo. And now we're going to rotate this. So we're gonna click over here, and by holding Control, we're going to click on this red curve. And by holding Control, you can see that it's going to rotate, and we want to put it over 90 degrees, which is somewhere over there. I don't know if you guys noticed that here appears the amount of movement, but if we hold Control, it just keeps 5 by 5. So we're gonna leave it over there, and we want to now extrude this a little bit to make it have a little bit of depth. So we want to go right over here, which is in the geometry section, and we want to extrude it a little bit. I think something over there looks nice. And now we're going to duplicate this for creating the stroke that the text has. So we're going to press Shift D, and this way we duplicated text, and then we press Escape so that it just stays where it is right now. And we want to go now over here, and where it says Fill, we want to click there and put it into None. And if you press G and move around, you can see that it isn't filled. We only have the border of the text, and this is because we're going to use that as a reference for creating our stroke. So we're gonna go here into bevel and add a little bit of depth, maybe something like that, and probably we want to extrude it a little bit more so that it has more depth, something like this. Now we want to by having the stroke selected, we want to press again Shift D and press escape again, and we're going to create another stroke. So we're gonna make the depth even bigger, but this time we're going to extrude it less so that we can preserve the detail on the smaller stroke that we already created. So this looks nice by now, and it's time to add some materials now. For doing so, we want to convert this text into a mesh so that we can, add texture and play around a little bit with it and everything. So we want to press A to select everything, and then Alt C. We will have this menu convert to, and we want to click Mesh from Curve. Now, if we click on whichever object from all of this, if we press the tab button, we can no longer edit the text. We will see that now what we have are the vertices, which we can move one by one. So make sure that you already know the definite name that you want for this before you actually do this step, because if not, the only way back is just pressing Control Z the whole time. So we're going to join the stroke. So we want to, with the right button, select the outer stroke, and then by holding Shift, select the inner stroke, and then press Control J. If we press Tab now, we can see that everything is one mesh now. So we're going to come over here, and we're gonna add some materials, but first we want to set up everything. So we're going to click over here and put it into texture mode, and then we're gonna press N, and in this menu that appears over here, we're gonna go into shading and select GLSL, and this is the closest thing that we're gonna have to the final render, and everything's black because we have no lamps right now. So we're gonna press space and we're gonna type add lamp. We can add, for example, an Emmy one so that we can see how's this gonna look like, more or less. We can rotate it a bit, maybe turn the energy a little bit down. Alright, and now if we select the outer stroke again, we can add a new material. We're gonna call this one, for example, red. So we want to look for that reddish tone. We can see that is somewhere between red and orange. So we're gonna look for a tone that looks like this one, and then we want to add a little bit of shine to this, because we can see that this reflection is not exactly as the one that we have over here, that maybe the reflection is a little bit sharper. So we're gonna look over here into hardness, and we're just going to increase this a little bit. We can see that now the material is looking different. And now we're going to click with a right click into the text that we have inside, which is over here, and we're going to add the texture that we created in Photoshop. So we want to click over here, new, and we're gonna call this, for example, dots, and then we want to come over here, add a new texture and call it once again dots. And I want to open, and we want to look into the texture that we created. I think it's this one over here. Yes. And now if we open over here, we want to look for our image editor, which is this one over here. We want to, by having selected the text inside, we want to press tab to go into edit mode, press A to select everything, and now in the numpad you want to press the number 1 to go to the front, and then 5 on the numpad to have this perspective. And now you want to hit the U key and then project from view. And this way what we have done is that we have created an UV map. If we hit 5 again, we can already navigate freely. And if we come over here, we can have control of the texture that is going to be displayed on the text. So if by having the cursor over here we hit S, we can scale it up until it fits the whole thing, and with J you can move it around, and we can see that we already have over here this texture that we created. We don't want no reflection in this texture, so we're gonna go back into the material, and in the intensity we're gonna drop it down to 0. So we can see that this is starting to look slowly very nice, and we can add a little bit of lighting now. So we're gonna create a blue lamp, because we can see that there's a blue lighting coming from below the text. And for doing so, we're gonna hit space and type again add lamp, but this time it's gonna be a point lamp. So with G you can move it around, and I'm gonna hit Z, so that I'm just going to move it on the Z axis, put it a little bit below, and then G and hit W, so that you can move it further a little bit, somewhere over there. And in this tab that we can see over here, we can choose the light color. So I'm gonna choose a bluish tone, something like that. Probably 25 is too much distance, so I'm just going to put it 5, and also a little bit more of energy. And I also want this light to create shadows, so I'm gonna hit onto ray shadow, and it's time to start looking to look how this is going to look at the end on the render. So we're gonna add a cam, so wanna hit space and type add camera, and the camera is going to add itself on the perspective that we have our 3D view. And for cleaning this rotation, we want to hit Alt R, and this way the rotation of the camera resets. So we want to hit G and Y to move it far from the text, then G Z to put it a little bit down, and then we want to rotate it and to move it around by hitting the 0 on the numpad. You can have the camera view, and by having it still selected, you can press G and move it around anywhere you want. I'm going to press Z so that I can move it only vertically. I think I'm going to rotate it even more, so I'm going to hit R and then X so that I only rotate it into the X axis. So probably somewhere over there, G Z. We can see a little bit more below the text, so I'm just going to put it a little bit closer. So alright, this is starting to look really nice. Now if we hit F12, we're gonna have over here a preview of the render. but we want to have more detail of this, so we're gonna go into here, into the render tab, and we're gonna put this into 100%, and also we want to render not in this small window but in the full software, so in the full program, the full window, sorry. So instead of image editor, we're gonna click here and click into full screen, and if we press F12 now, we will see that we have a very detailed image of what we're doing. Now we want to add a little bit more of shading into this, and we're going to create something called ambient occlusion. So we're gonna come into this world tab, and we're gonna hit ambient occlusion and then set it to multiply. And if we press F12 now, I don't know if you realize, but we have a little bit of shading over here, which looks real nice. There's a little bit of clipping over there, but whatever, it's going to make the work anyway. So after doing this, we want to maybe adjust it a little bit with you know, the lighting and everything, because if we press F12, it looks nice, but it can look better. So maybe we can get rid of this lamp over here, or maybe set it, instead of Hemi, we can come into this tab and set it to spot. Oh no, point, sorry. I want to move it a little bit closer. By pressing Shift D, we can duplicate it. We can create another lamp. We can make this, for example, a little bit reddish. And if we press F12, we can see how this is changing. I can see that the blue texture is too dark, so we're going to right click into it. Make sure that you have selected by pressing G and moving around, and then press escape, and you want to come into the material tab again, and you want to look for emit, and just want to increase it slightly, because if we increase it too much it's going to be shadeless, but we don't want it to be shadeless, we just want it to be a little bit of shine. And if we hit F12, we can see that it looks very similar to the logo of the movie. And now for rendering this out, we want to come into here, and you have two options for rendering this. If you go into shading, you're going to find this tab that is the background, and you can either render the background color. For example, if we come over here, we can change the horizon color to maybe white, and if we press F12, the background is going to be white, but of course we will need to add a little bit more of lamps because it looks too dark now, the text. Or the other option is going back into the shading tab, clicking on sky and selecting transparent. So if we press F12 right now, we're gonna have our text with a transparent background. So this is going to be rendered as a PNG. And if you want to save already this, of course, I always recommend to constantly be hitting Control S. But for saving this picture, you have to press F3. And by pressing that, you can choose where you're going to save your PNG image. And you can create the No Way Home title into Photoshop, making composition or whatever, or you can just create it right here. So we can do it that quickly. So we're gonna hit space and then type add text. We want to go into the font tab, center it, and we're going to move it a little bit. Make it look the camera. With S we do the scaling, and with R the rotation. We're gonna select the other font, which is this one, Far From Coming. We click open font, And if we hit tab now, we can now write wherever. We hit tab again to quit the editing mode, and then if we go into the material, we can create a new material which is going to be black, and we want to hit shadeless so that the lamps don't affect the material, and this is going to be completely black. So we can scale it up a little bit, maybe put it somewhere over there, and then if we hit F12, we have our logo based on the latest Spider-Man movie. So that was it. Thank you very much for following this tutorial. Please let me know in the comments below if there's anything that you would like to know about Blender or about some effect that you saw lately on a movie. So thank you very much for being here, and I really hope to see you in my next tutorial. So see ya!